Are we live now?
We are live with the placeholder now. Right, are you ready?
Ready as I'll ever be. Hello, welcome to Swarm Online. This is going to be the first of our Toolbox talks, and today I'll be talking about mindful coding. My name is Jake, and I'm a developer here at Swarm Online. So essentially, there's going to be a few things I want to talk about. First of all, it's going to be kind of mindfulness in general, and then how we're going to then bring some of those things in from mindfulness into how we approach coding in general. I don't know how well you can see it here, but this is quite a famous example of mindfulness, and it's called the 3 circles of emotional regulation. So this was a theory which was developed by a psychologist called Paul Gilbert. What he basically said was that in traditional kind of mindset, there's 3 different systems. So there's the drive, which is all about accomplishing goals, getting things done. Threat, which is deal with danger and just survive. And then soothing, which is just kind of calm, chilling out. So traditionally, the hunter-gatherer, they would have very distinct ones. So maybe one moment they're running for their lives from a tiger, the next moment they're trying to become the best in their tribe, and then later on they're just chilling out. So it's very distinct between the 3. But what's happened is that through evolution, we haven't really developed to adapt to that. So the difference between running for your life from a saber-toothed tiger and having to deal with a tight deadline isn't quite the same, as I'm sure you can imagine. So one way of dealing with this issue is where mindfulness comes in. So this is quite a common definition of mindfulness. It's the ability to know what is happening in your mind at any given moment without getting carried away with it. The best way I like to think of it really is just trying to be aware, and to me it's the difference between doing things consciously and doing things unconsciously, and that's what I think mindfulness really brings in to your life. So I'm going to first of all show a few examples of how we can actually approach this with coding. First of all, why is it really worth doing mindfulness? Is it really worth doing it at all? So mindfulness has been quite well researched, and there are studies which show that it can lower stress, it can lower anxiety, and it can also improve your attention span as well. In terms of coding as well, I think it's really important that we try and be really conscious and mindful with how we write code. Because when you think about it, most of our code isn't writing, it's actually reading it afterwards, trying to work out what on earth we were talking about a week before. So I think it really pays us dividends to be mindful about how we approach this. The broken windows theory, I don't know if any of you have heard of this. This was actually a study which was done in the 1990s in the US by police. And what they found was that things like broken windows could actually lead to much bigger crime. So just a minor crime like that would give the community the feeling that no one cares and that the powers that be aren't interested in them, and that could rapidly lead to to much greater crime like theft and drugs and everything like that. So what they found was that by preventing these these smaller crimes, they could actually prevent higher crimes before they even happened. And I think this is definitely something which happens in our code as well. Often, just one bad line of code can lead to code rot, where the whole class can just really suffer because of that. So I think dealing with it as it comes up and spending that time to fix the broken windows in our code really helps us on in the long run. So now I'm going to talk about a few ways that we can actually start writing code a bit more mindfully and a bit clever, really. So here on the left, we've got an example of a function in JavaScript. So this essentially takes an element from a form and then adds that to a list. So from that, this is a perfectly well-functioning function. So it works, and there's nothing wrong with it. So if we weren't being mindful, we could just click to submit this for a code review, and then submit it, and that's done. But this it's not perfect already, and I think we need to focus on the difference between being finished and actually just working. So working doesn't necessarily mean that we're finished with it. So on the left-hand side, there's a kind of a breakdown of this. So you can see this function immediately is breaking the single responsibility principle. So this is doing about 3 different things at once. So if we then, if we spend the time actually breaking it down, following the single responsibility principle, and just making it a lot cleaner, then that's going to help. It immediately becomes a lot easier to understand what this function is doing than what this function is doing. And that's an example of where, with those fixing broken windows, it just cleaning things up makes it a lot easier to work with the code base. Second of all, variables. So variables are pretty much the key point of programming. They're used in pretty much every single thing that you write. And again, I think being a bit more mindful about how we write variables really helps us later on in understanding what the code is. And going back to what I said about, most of the coding is reading code, it's not about writing code. If you can read the code, then that's going to save, it's going to save so much time in the long run. So these examples here, so this function, as you can see, it's a bit unclear, what's that number doing, and if you were to just read that code, you would have to then go and ask someone else or try and flip through the code to try and work out what it does. But just spending 10 seconds just to give it a meaningful name immediately makes it a lot clearer as to what's going on in that code. And again, I think the important thing to remember is that working isn't the same as finished, and spending that time to just clean everything up is definitely just as valid a point as getting it to work. So this isn't exactly a point about coding as such, it's more about how we can take care of ourselves in our mind. Has anyone come across the Pomodoro technique before? No? One of you? So this is basically a method of working. So the idea is that you set yourself a meaningful task, and then you set 25 minutes to work on that task, and throughout that 25 minutes you work exclusively and you're dead focused on it. After that, so when the bell rings, you then take a 5-minute break and just chill out a bit and rest, I guess. And then you repeat that, and the idea is that you would repeat that 4 times, and after that you would then take a longer break. One way I like to think about it is that the mind is a bit like a snow globe. If you just keep on shaking it up, then that's only going to make things messier. And sometimes it's better to just put the snow globe down and let it rest a bit, and the minds can really benefit from that. Also, I think giving ourselves time to reflect is super important in coding. We always talk about agile being the big thing in coding. That's probably the biggest buzzword that we talk about, is this idea of we work for 2 weeks and then we get to the end of it, we reflect on what we did, and then we do better the next time. But I don't think we ever really do that with ourselves. We never look back on how we were working the past hour and say, oh, was I getting stressed out? How is my heart rate doing? Am I getting anxious about this? And I think actually being aware of that and giving ourselves time to reflect on ourselves and just to relax a bit really pays dividends in the long run. So just some final thoughts for this. I think we as coders and we as people in the tech industry, we rely on our brains. The same as an athlete would rely on their fitness to perform the job, we're dependent on our minds. So we really need to be able to invest in our minds and use them to work better. And I think just being able to work it smarter and be conscious of what we're doing throughout the day really helps us in the long run. And I think this is a really good quote, that your mind is the best asset that you have, and you need to invest in it. Thank you very much.